and these are questions that come up in talking about anybody's land, but especially when you're talking about female landowners who may or may not have had some prejudice when dealing with male owners, shared ownership. So I've talked to you a little bit about creative nonfiction, and what I did was I started off this project thinking about how I would tell my story and how I would create character sketches, and I want to share a little bit of what I hope will be part of the student process. They will not actually write a play, but that's where I was headed with my work. So this is a little bit of my mama's story. I don't know what I would do without the Lord. I don't know what I would do without the Lord. While traveling through this land, trying to do the very best I can. I don't know what I would do without the Lord. If you get to heaven, get there before I do. And if you see my mother, tell her I'm coming too. I'm on this King's Highway, just traveling every day. I don't know what I would do without the Lord. My name is Dr. Allison Upshaw, and I am the daughter of Alice Adams Upshaw, retired teacher holding a master's degree in education. I am the granddaughter of Clara Mae Lewis Adams, a former domestic worker with a third grade education, and I am the great-granddaughter of Henry Lewis, who was a farmer, and the great-great-granddaughter of Jim Lewis, freed slave. I lived with Mama in the house she grew up in the house my grandmother grew up in. Mama still sleeps in the room she was born in when we were home. And the land has been in our family, well, you know what, I'll let Mama tell you about that. Sally Lewis and her brother owned slaves. And the brother went out to fight in the Civil War, and he took one slave with him. Now, after the brother died, the slave made his way back to the plantation. And Sally Lewis decided she'd free the slaves and give them the land, since the Yankees gonna probably do that anyway. And she moved on up the road a piece and married into the Crenshaw family. Anyway, that's how all the families around here got their land. Mama, do you remember when you first heard that story? Well, you know, when your cousin and I were working on that book of family history, I went up to Mr. David Crenshaw and he told us that story. Sally Lewis married into that family. Oh, he was in his 90s then. I wish I'd started looking into the family history when Mama was living. That's right, isn't it? Yeah, that's what you told me. Missy, don't get mad, but I hate it when you do that, you know. Well, we need to talk about things. Okay, Mama, fine. What is it? Well, we need to talk about the land, baby. You put it in Sheila's name, and I don't want it to go to her. I want it to go to the children. Now, don't put that on me, Mama. I didn't do anything about the land. You put it in Sheila's name, and I have never talked to anyone about this land except you. Well, I just don't want to lose it. We've come this far, leaning on the Lord, trusting in His holy word. Mama, I don't want to lose the land either. I don't like talking about it because I have to think about you being dead. But that's gonna happen one day, Mrs. We need to be prepared. Maybe we can get the lawyer to go ahead and put this man in the children's name, and you can be in charge of it while you living, like what we did. Yes, like what you did for Big Ma and what you did for us. Okay, Mom. Okay. I'll look into it, okay? You know, I am glad that you and Auntie got deeds for the property before Big Ma passed. I mean, not having to deal with their property is a blessing. Can you imagine trying to divide up the land with your brother's 15 children and another sister's 9? Lord have mercy, Missy. But Missy, if they want it, you let them have it. Now, Mama said she wasn't going to let this land take her to hell, and I'm not either. I don't want you fighting over it. Mama, don't start. This is the only home I've ever known, and I will not just roll over and give it to my cousins just because they asked. Hell, they probably don't even remember how to find it except for maybe 3 of them. I'm sorry I cussed. I just get mad thinking about it. I don't want to fight about it, Mama, but I'd be doggone if I'm going to let some people who don't call you, don't visit you, don't even ask about you, take this away from me if I can help it. This little piece of the ridge is all I got in the world besides you, and I'll do what I have to keep it. Can we talk about something else? Like what? Like, I asked out on a date. You did? Well, what does it look like, baby? I don't know. I mean, he's not handsome, but he ain't ugly either. I mean, he's okay looking. Well, I guess it don't matter now. How old are you, Missy? You don't have but one child, Mama. Look like you ought to remember. Besides, what's that got to do with anything? Well, at your age, baby, I guess you have to take what you can get, so it doesn't matter what it looks like. Now, what you gonna cook me for lunch? Thank you. Do we have time for any questions, or y'all want to wait?
We got about 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes. Anybody have questions or suggestions for moving forward? I'm happy to hear them.
So are the student projects online yet, or is that coming?
So one of the things that what I'm hoping to do is, as we record what the students do, that we'll have a website where these character sketches and people will be displayed, and people can go and look at them, maybe some YouTube videos, things like that. So there will be a digital repository of the character sketches, and you know, some interviews with the students about what they learned in terms of the research project. Hopefully community members will. The grant does not fund oral history, so I won't be, I'm applying for another grant that may cover some oral history so that they can actually if we have some current landowners, that we might be able to get some current stories for them to engage with. Yes?
Doctor, I love that. That was amazing, by the way. The methodology that you're embracing, I think, is brilliant, and it kind of reminds me. Again, you asked for suggestions,
yes.
And I have very little teaching expertise at none. But there was a program that we did when I was at Auburn and trying to teach. We use this with high school freshmen. I don't know what grade that you're targeting specifically to do the projects, but it's called Reacting to the Past.
Ooh.
And I think, I don't know if Brown or some other university came up with this a while ago, and basically you would, the students would get a personality. So like in ancient Athens, they would be assigned, like a real personality. They would investigate that personality, and then they would play that personality in like the debates of the class. And it kind of reminded me of this a little bit. So
Yes,
I don't know if
I like that.
I remember it because the students loved it. They really, really got into it. So I just want to commend you. I think that this is a really great way to imbue a love of like real people, making history instead of this great grand narrative, part of something that they can really connect to with real people.
I know one of the things that really came out in as I was kind of engaging with what this might look like was, I think Alabama has, I think the lawyer told me, 67 million acres or dollars worth of air property that nobody can do anything with because they can't find all the heirs. And remember, all the heirs have to agree or something. So imagine that. Imagine people in the Black Belt, young students who don't know how they're going to pay for college, but there's land in the family. You can't find all the heirs. And you can't ignore Uncle Jimmy who's in prison because he's still an heir. And you can't ignore Sally because she's not blood related, but she was raised in the family as a daughter. So all of these people come into play. There is one family that is there at 177 heirs per acre of land. That's how far that they had gotten in building their family tree. And so, but what I'm hoping is that these students will begin to rethink. We might be money poor, we could be land rich. Maybe they are wealthy because their family owns land, and maybe they can rethink their position in the world because they are landowners. Because the narrative is that African Americans don't own houses, don't own land. What happens if we change that narrative and get our students, our young people, to rethink who they are based on this? My family owns this house. I'm a landowner. I come from, my mother said that she felt that because we were all, the community where I grew up in, where she grew up in, because we were all landowners and not sharecroppers, that changed their interaction with the world, and that it was a very different community where education was really, really prized in a way that was very different from the communities that were not that far away, but that the people were sharecroppers. I don't know, but that's another area of interest to me. What happens? What is the mindset? I know for me, I've always been like, well, I don't like you, I will go home. I don't like this, or I'm not being successful in this, well, I'll just go home. I can always go home. And it would be there. The house is 113, 114 years old now. And the land is older than that. I can always go home. And I would love to be able to, if I can get some students to think, I can go home. Home is not a bad place because I don't have the latest tennis shoes or the latest thing that money can buy, but I'm wealthy because I have this relationship to the land, to the community. Any other questions, suggestions? If you think of anything, please feel free to email me. I appreciate your time. Thank you.